Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our new time for the Twinsday race. I am Tirasu, and tonight I am joined by Maggie the Cat. How are you doing this evening?
Hello, Tarasu and Free Enterprise fans. Welcome to the first Saturday night race. I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for asking. Tonight we have what we are calling the Board Deals race. We are featuring all of the characters who do not want to go to ordeals. So that is going to be everyone except for Cecil, Tella, and Fusoya.
Certainly is. And then we also have a couple of other interesting flag sets on tonight, such as the dwarf warp glitch, item duplication glitch, and the MP underflow glitch, along with this being a T3S2 set.
Yeah, so this is going to be a really interesting flag set. Of course, normally Cecil and Tella are going to want to go to ordeals so that they can power themselves up. Cecil starting out as the Dark Knight, but going to ordeals so that he can become a paladin. And then Tella starting with a very limited spell list, but after completing ordeals gets his full range of spells. And then Fusoya enjoys ordeals because there are three bosses up there, and if the Fusoya challenge is on, he gets quite the increased range of spells as well. But all those characters are not available, so we'll see if our players decide to even do ordeals. Of course, there could be a very important key item up there. And now we see our players, our runners, starting out here and starting with the Baron key, which in and of itself is a key item, very important. There could be something important locked behind that.
Certainly could be. There's also going to be two key items behind that Baron key. Tonight, we're starting with a Porum and an Edge. That's actually a really strong start.
Absolutely. Edge being one of the most powerful early game characters, he and Fusoya are often called the most powerful early game characters. And then Porum being a white mage, of course, this is a very good start for our.
Certainly true. And we see our two runners looking Woo Bear and Peasants setting up for the item duplication glitch, which means they're looking to get a bunch of money early on. With this being T3, some of the most powerful items aren't going to be easy to get, and money could be a little tight.
Yeah, nice to see that item duplication glitch in use right away. We don't often see some of those more powerful glitches in play during races, so nice to see them demonstrating that right away. I see that we have a cane sitting in the Baron Inn spot there, and over on Bakashinobi and Night Dew's side, we see them immediately splitting up and doing the divide and conquer strategies that are so often used in the 2v2 races, where they are doing the item checks and the shop checks in a couple of different locations just to start knocking those out right away.
Certainly, a lot of people like to split this up when you're in the 2v2. Night 2 is going to take on the Baron Inn. Elements going to be fairly easy. It's just going to be what's behind that elements. Ooh, a Bahamut.
That is an interesting boss here. Of course, they're going to have a little bit of time before Bahamut does his mega nuke, and it looks like they've Night 2 found a ninja star to dart, which is going to do a lot of damage. That did over 2,000 damage right at the start, so has a very good chance of being able to take this down before that mega nuke goes off.
Certainly does. The spot has right around 4,000 HP, so taking off half right away is great. And then Porum getting 2 stacks of slow on Bahamut will make this a little bit more manageable. And just like that, Bahamut's down, and Night Dew gets the spoon, but also a cane for his party.
Spoon is going to be a very nice find because the spoon flag is on. So if they find an Edward, then they can equip that spoon right away, and that's going to make Edward quite a useful character in this flag set.
Well, not only that, you have an edge. You could equip that spoon on Edward, set up to duplicate it, and have infinite spoons for throwing with edge, and probably just wreck everything in your path.
Very, very true. Of course, we do have no free lunch on, so they're not going to be able to look for Edward in all of the free character checks. But I don't know, has anyone gone to Hobbs yet to see who the character on Hobbs is? That would be one spot that they could go to look for an early character check.
I haven't seen anyone get to Hobbs yet, but we see Peasants is heading into the Antlion Den now.
Very good early play spot here. There's going to be a key item check at the bottom and also lots of treasure chests that are easy to access. There's no trapped chests in here, so very easy to load up on some early game treasure without the risk of running into anything very nasty in this dungeon.
I do want to point out, Nightdew just found a crystal armor in Damsian. Now, we don't have a Cecil in this seed, but that crystal armor sells for a lot of GP.
Absolutely. Any of the crystal gear is going to be just instantly sellable since there's no Cecil in this seed. So anything like that is going to be something that our runners can just turn into instant cash. And there was a crystal sword, in fact, up on, or crystal shield rather, up on Baka Shinobi's screen in the Damsian treasury.
They also found a cursed ring, which will be useful later on for manipulating your agility. And we see Nightdew heading up Hobbs now.
And Peasants is going to take a look at the boss down at the bottom of Antlion. So we've got all of our runners going in different directions here.
All right. On Hobbs, we have the dolls with a Sid, and it looks like we have a Pale Dim down in Antlion. So two fairly easy bosses for this point in the game.
Yeah, the dolls, of course, if they happen to have hourglasses, the dolls in the back, the blue ones, can be stopped. However, with that edge, they're going to be pretty easy to just cast Flame and take them out, probably with a single cast, which is exactly what they did. And then that boss down at the bottom of Antlion doesn't have that many hit points, regardless of what boss it is, since the Antlion spot has right around 1,000 hit points. So Edge, just dual wielding even short swords, is going to be able to take that spot out pretty easily all by himself.
Certainly did. We see both Nightdew and Peasants make very quick work of their bosses. Peasants getting the Twin Harp from that Antlion spot.
We may very well be getting some early music, chat. Get your emotes ready.
Early music would be an interesting play. Probably be one of the later checks that Peasants will want to do, simply because there's so much you can do right now. One other thing to point out for this flag set tonight, though, is there is no safety checks on. So your path to the underground could be on the moon, or could be blocked by some of the more difficult bosses, such as Wyvern or Valvalis.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be something that our runners are going to be hoping that they don't have to run into. Chat, of course, may have something else to say. Now, over on Peasants' screen, Peasants did find both Hourglass 2s, and coffins in the Fabul item shop, and both of those are going to be very useful for taking out trapped chests. At this point in the game, especially the Eblon Castle trapped chests, which can contain key items, and they're going to be hoping for something easy like a magma key that will give them early and easy underground access.
Certainly true. The Eblon checks, very common in this flag set. That's 3 key item potential checks, and the monsters for this point in the game give really good experience, and you can also exploit quite a few of them with the life glitch to further boost your party ahead.
And it looks like that's exactly what Peasants' partner Woobear is doing right now, is going into Eblon Castle to start doing those trapped chests, while Peasants is taking on the boss at the Fabul Gauntlet, which is the Dark Elf, which has turned into the Dark Dragon, and which now has been taken down by Edge's swords.
Certainly. Certainly a fairly easy boss to take care of. Let's see what our key item or potential key item is from the Luca key.
Pretty key item heavy so far for all the checks that our runners have done, which of course our runners are pretty excited about. I did just see up on Baka Shinobi's screen, they found a heroine robe up on the backside of Mount Hobbs there, which is going to be a very nice find for that quorum that they have. Heroine robe is a piece of armor that the ladies can equip that greatly increases their physical stats and kind of turns them from proficient magic users into more proficient melee or combat characters. So if they can find a good bow and arrow for Porum, that will turn her into a pretty good fighter.
Be very possible to make Porum into a great fighter with that heroine robe, and a good bow and arrow like an elven bow or an archer bow would be really nice. And if we see peasants found an archer bow, and Woo Bear found another heroine robe in Eblon.
The T3 flag is certainly doing some work for our runners tonight and giving them a very nice array of treasures. Looks like Baka did have some samurai arrows and a elven bow that he was able to put on his Porum along with that heroine robe.
That will definitely make Porum into a pretty solid fighter. Also on peasants, he just went to the shop in Kaipo and found illusions, which will grant the user the blink status. And a lot of bosses in this game like to use physical attacks, so that'll make some of these more difficult bosses much more manageable.
Yeah, and especially if they've done the item dupe glitch and then sold some items for a bunch of money. Some of these items that you maybe don't have a lot of or only get a few of, they're going to be able to get lots of these items and have like bigger stacks, like stacks of maybe 10, 20, 30 of these items instead of just a few of them that they normally would. So they'll have these items available for those tougher boss fights when they come up.
Very much so, and it's very nice to be able to have those items. And we see Baka Shinobi is now also in the Eblon castle looking for those key items and those trap chests, making use of Edge's flame to quickly wipe out the skulls in this trap chest.
Yeah, so we are starting to see just a little bit of convergence and overlap now with all of our runners as they have very quickly, especially with this early party, they very quickly have been able to take on most of the early game checks, overworld checks, and no one so far has found any progression to Underworld or Moon. It's probably going to be here in Eblan. Now, the one spot that no one has checked that is often kind of overlooked or left until the end is the Flame Dog check, and that is the single trapped chest that is up in the Tower of Zot. Most people don't like to go up there just for that chest because if you don't have the Earth Crystal, it's kind of out of the way to get up there. You have to go through a little bit of a cutscene and then find the right chest, and then if you don't have the Earth Crystal, it's just a single check. But if that's where their progression is, that could be where they have to go to find where they're going to go next.
Certainly true, but we also do have that Twin Harp and Baron Key. So Twin Harp is a single check that takes quite a bit of time, and then Baron Key will lead to two more key item checks, one of them being at that Odin spot, which is very difficult, especially at this point in the game.
Yes, indeed. And normally with safety checks on, Odin would not have progression, or the Odin spot rather would not have progression. But with safety checks off, that Odin spot could very well have what they're needing in order to get on or get off of the overworld rather.
All right, we see Woo Bear and Baka Shinobi making quick work of that Mad Ogre chest and even using some life potions to get that life glitch to increase some of their experience. Just for a cursed ring tonight, though.
I did see that they had picked up the pink tail from the Lamia and Black Cat chest, so a key item, but not able to utilize it without the hook. Now, we do see Peasants is being the first of our on-screen runners to dive that Baron key. So we're going to see, hopefully, at least the first of the 2 checks that is going to be in Baron Castle in just a few moments here.
Looks like Woo Bear is finished up with Eblon, just getting that pink tail. Like you said, not just a key item at this point in time. What's interesting about the pink tail is it will lead to an adamant armor use.
Oh yes, it's a very nice key item to have. Once you find the hook, you're going to be able to turn that in for the best piece of armor in the game. So I'm sure that they're glad to see it. Just that right now it counts toward the 10 key items. That once you get 10 key items, you'll be getting double experience. So I'm sure that they're happy to find it. Any key item is a key item, great to have, but just not quite what they're looking for actual progression yet.
Certainly true. We see Peasants ran into that plague inside the Baron. So plague is interesting. It doesn't actually do any damage to you, but constantly puts the count status on you. What he's making use of is those coffins and killing off Kane and reviving him to keep refreshing his count status as to prevent himself from wiping.
Yes, and it's actually very fortuitous that he has 3 characters to be able to do this strategy. It's pretty difficult to pull off with only 2 characters, but with at least 3 characters, then you can have 1 character doing DPS, which is what Edge is doing, 1 character constantly killing themselves, which is what Kane is doing, and then 1 character reviving the KO'd character, which is what Porum is doing. So I don't think it might take a few minutes here, but Peasants isn't going to have much trouble at all with this spot using that strategy.
Meanwhile, Woo Bear is checking the Flame Dog check while Night Dew is going to dive that Twin Harp. Unfortunately, I don't know if Night Dew has his audio split tonight, so we probably won't get to hear it. Unfortunately, with the 2v2 race setup, the 2 runners, Baka Shinobi and Night Dew, are communicating with each other in Discord or some sort of chat. Some runners don't have their audio split, so unfortunately we can't provide everyone's audio.
Yeah, and actually his partner, Night Dew's partner, Baka Shinobi, is the one who you're hearing audio from right now. So let's have fingers crossed that this Magnus Cave check is something that's required, so that then Baka Shinobi has to go there to get the item, so that then you can hear whatever the song is here.
I would love to see some required music. Baka Shinobi is going up ordeals now, and Woo Bear, I didn't think he got anything from Flame Dog, but taking on and getting this Kane.
I did also see Night Dew earlier take on the early Mist Dragon checks, which is always a good play, because if there's a hidden Mist Dragon, that could be your progression too, hiding somewhere where you normally wouldn't make a boss check.
Peasants runs into some vanilla on the throne tonight.
So here we're going to pretend that we're hearing music on Night Dew's screen.
Maybe he'll even be kind enough to check what the song is for us, so we can at least imagine. Ooh, there's a Leviathan in the music spot.
This is the easier of the 2 bosses that have this palette. The other one, of course, being Ogopogo. And Leviathan's Big Wave is going to take off a quarter of your hit points every time he uses it. Ogopogo uses Big Wave twice. Occasionally, which will take off, of course, half of your hit points. So Leviathan's a little bit easier, and probably with the party setup that he has with 3 pretty strong melee fighters. Of course, this spot is pretty resistant to magic. He'll be okay taking this boss on.
Baka Shinobi found the Earth Crystal on Ordeals after beating that D-loners, now taking on Dr. Luge. Night Dew finishing up that Leviathan.
And it looks like Woo Bear is hot on Baka Shinobi's tail going up Ordeals, maybe backing out of Ordeals? Oh, they're just going down to save, it looks like. But yeah, probably going to be checking Ordeals for their team next. And it looks like Night Dew has found our progression. That is the Darkness Crystal down at the bottom of Cave Magnus.
That Darkness Crystal almost always is required in this flag set. So we are probably going to get quite a bit of music and get to hear the Punch Out Fight theme on Baka Shinobi's side tonight.
Of course, just to talk a little bit about what our runners are actually looking for, this is a V1 flag set, which is very common for these 2v2 races, commonly what we call the Forge percent. So our runners are looking for, ultimately they are looking for the Legend Sword and the Adamant key item, which they are going to have to take to the Blacksmith Kokol in the Underground in order to forge their crystal, which they need in order to defeat Zeromus.
Certainly, all our runners are looking for those 2 key items along with other key items to help with progression. So that Darkness Crystal is interesting because now you have a way to the moon, which your path underground could still potentially be on the moon. That Earth Crystal is also in play, so Baka Shinobi is going to probably run straight up and do the Tower of Zot. Peasants finally gets through that Kainatsu fight, not one of the most fun fights, especially at these kind of low levels.
Yeah, normally Kainatsu at that spot is not very difficult because you have Tella and Palom who can cast very powerful lightning magic and is usually very easy to take Kainatsu down there. But with nobody who has access to black magic in his party, that was a little bit of a rough fight. Now it does look like he just found Iridia, and we're about to find out the key item that he's about to get out of the garbage pot in the basement of Baron Castle here.
Would have been nice to have that ready a little bit sooner for that fight, or maybe have found some Lightning J items to help with it.
So Peasants has found just a white shirt for his trouble for defeating Kainatsu. That, of course, is a very powerful defensive item for any of his white mages. So Porum can use that if he hasn't picked up a heroine robe. It's going to turn her into a very good white mage and increase her mental stats. But it's not a key item. So it looks like now Peasants is going to be following up with the Twin Harp and going down Cave Magnus for his team. So if he is able to defeat this spot, he'll be getting the Darkness Crystal check for his team very shortly.
Blue Bears just now getting to the bosses on Mount Ordeals, which are the Dark Imps, the D-Lunars, and then Dr. Luge. Nothing too terribly difficult. Night Dew is finally heading into the Baron Key, gonna find that white shirt eventually.
Yeah, so again, we see the runners on both teams are dividing and conquering for their teams. Baka Shinobi, the only one with the Earth Crystal so far, so glad to see that they are going up and doing that Zot check for their team. We'll see if there's anything required up there.
He did just find a Zeus Gauntlet, which is an amazing piece of gear, especially for that edge at this point. It's going to increase their strength and allow them to do a little more damage.
Of course, we do still have the Odin spot. Peasants decided not to check that. We did say earlier that the Odin check in the bottom of Baron Castle is a very difficult spot, but it could also be a free boss, something like, we haven't seen, I don't think very many of the free bosses like Water Hag or King and Queen Eblan. There's quite a few bosses that could be pretty easy for their team to take down.
That certainly could be true. Even still, that spot is very dangerous and very difficult. So even a free boss can absolutely destroy your team if you're not ready for it.
Yeah, very true.
We see Nightdew takes a wipe to the Plague fight, and Baka Shinobi in that first fight for Tower Zot up against the Pain Man tonight.
Fortunately, Baka Shinobi does have Sid, who has a lot of hit points here, and Dark Knight Cecil, Pain Man, is not going to do a whole lot of damage in this spot, so this is actually a very good place to find Pain Man, as opposed to someplace like the Summon Monster locations or a Lunar Boss location, something like that, where he's going to do just hundreds or even potentially thousands of points of damage with his Dark Wave.
Baka Shinobi getting all three characters to survive the 3 attacks from Dark Knight. So this boss is just going to instantly kill themselves and be able to continue on in the Tower of Zot.
Nightdew did save at the save point before Baron Castle, which is good. Sometimes your runners do not make that safety save, and they end up going all the way back outside Baron City and having to go all the way back through the underground waterway there. So it's good that they had that safety save, so they can retry this Plague fight, looking like they are setting it up a little bit better now. Hopefully they'll be able to get through it this time.
Certainly, always a smart idea to safety save just before you come into the Baron Castle proper, simply because you never know what's going to happen. And Baka Shinobi finding a Rosa, and we have a Moon Boss at the Golbez spot tonight.
I'm sure none of our runners are going to be unhappy about finding Rosa. She is considered usually one of the best characters in the game. They do already have a white mage, so we'll see if they decide to keep both of them, ditch one of them. Of course, here we're finding an Edward, and Baka Shinobi does not have the spoon, but his partner Nightdew does, so he at least knows where the spoon is, and it would be pretty easy for him to go get that spoon and start duping spoons, and he put that spoon on Edward for himself.
Certainly very true. And Baka Shinobi does know where that spoon is, so probably gonna keep that Edward and be able to dupe it himself. Woo Bear now has that Earth Crystal, and Peasants has their Darkness Crystal. Woo Bear probably gonna dive that Earth Crystal right away, find that Edward, and probably also give that information over to Peasants.
We're finding another vanilla elemental fiend at the top of Zot here. We're seeing Valvalis in the Valvalis location. Unfortunately, Baka Shinobi does not have Kane, and Valvalis can be a little bit tricky. When she gets into her spin form, as we see her here, the only way to break that is if you have Kane jump. And without Kane, she's going to stay in that spin form, and she's got very high evade. She's resistant to magic. She can be pretty hard to hit, although it does look like he's still able to hit her. Edge is still doing pretty good damage there with whatever weapons he's got, so he's probably going to be able to take this spot down even without Kane pretty easily.
Certainly shouldn't have too much trouble with that Edge. Edge comes with some pretty nice levels already on him, so Valvalis in her vanilla spot, not the most difficult, but certainly annoying. And you see Baka Shinobi able to take down Val without too much trouble.
And meanwhile, Baka's partner Nightdew is fighting that vanilla Kainatsu.
Again, doesn't seem to have access to any of the lightning magic to break this wave, so Kainatsu's wave, unlike Leviathan and the Nope Rope, does damage based on Kinatsu's HP, which can absolutely tear through a party very quickly if you're not prepared for it.
Yeah, he's just going to have to brute force it and do as much damage as quickly as possible to lower that wave's damage output. Looks like Baka Shinobi got a Bahamut summon, which they don't know it yet, but Night Dew's going to find out very quickly here that Rydia can use that. Not a key item, still a nice item, but nothing of importance ultimately out of Zot.
I don't know if Baka Shinobi would dive through Baron just for Rydia to use Bahamut. Rydia in the game itself takes a lot of experience to really come online for that final fight, and on top of that has very low HP, which makes life difficult with her. That being said, she does learn Nuke eventually, and it is very useful.
Yeah, she can be very powerful, but like you said, it does take her a while to build up. Now, it looks like, it looks like Peasants has decided to dive the moon. They were checking what we normally call the hairdryer's chest, which is the single trapped chest that is found in the lunar path. Looks like they did take a wipe to it, unfortunately. If the character who you have queued up to use your hourglass does get targeted and killed before they can actually use their hourglass, that can be kind of an unfortunate circumstance, but they're probably just going to go right back in there and try it again. Not actually a very difficult fight if you have hourglasses and J items.
Certainly true, and on top of that, you can make use of the life glitch for this and really jump your party ahead for this moon, because the moon, regardless, has some very difficult spots to get through.
Yeah, and it looks like his edge was able to get the hourglass off this time, so they'll be able to get the rest of their party up. Probably coffin. I'm not sure if these monsters can be coffined, but either way, they'll be able to beat up on these monsters pretty easily and get a lot of experience to boost their party up pretty quickly here to start taking on the moon boss checks.
Interesting thing to note, Peasants does not have any life potions.
Oh, interesting. Have we found life potions yet? Has anybody checked? Maybe they haven't. Have they checked the Hummingway shop?
I have not seen Peasants check the Hummingway shop yet. Looks like that's where they're gonna head now.
I would think that's where they're gonna go. Yeah, looks like it.
Blue Bear's about to be very excited to see that Edward. Peasants checking the free character here on the moon. And it's the Palom. That's an interesting one to get.
Palom is a very powerful black mage. Does not take as long as Rydia to build up. Gets Quake very early, level 23, I believe, which is much earlier than Rydia gets some of her powerful spells. And with his sister Porum, can use the twin magic, which very early game can actually be a very good way if you happen to get both twins early on to clear out some of the early checks. So Palom can be a pretty good find here, and he can be very useful for the Zeromus fight as well.
Certainly true. Getting Quake, especially with how early Palom gets it, makes a lot of things much, much easier. Peasants came back to Earth. Looks like he's going to run up and get that Earth Crystal and get that Edward, especially with that item dupe on. That's a really amazing thing to do, because that'll give, first off, Edge infinite throwing spoons, which is the most powerful thing you can throw in the game, and you'll have an Edward with a spoon.
Yeah, for sure. Even with a strong party, like a couple of black mages, like Palom and Rydia, and Edge, even without the spoon, probably taking the time to it is going to be a long check. They have to go through all these bosses here up on Ordeals. They're going to have to go all the way up Zot, but the payout, it's probably going to be worth it to have infinite spoons.
Well, the other thing to make note of in this flag set, we don't have sirens in shops. So grinding and getting experience for your party gonna be a little bit more difficult than normal. Certainly there's some certain grinds you can do without sirens, but not everyone may know these right off the top of their head.
Yeah, definitely. Now it looks like Baka Shinobi has gone to dive Cave Magnus to get that darkness crystal. So, chat, enjoy your music.
Just gonna point out that our Hummingway shop today just has the Hermes.
Yeah, there are life potions somewhere on Earth because they were able to do that plague fight by killing and lifing their party members.
Certainly able to get through it. We see Baka finishing up the Leviathan fight, and Night Dew is on the moon now, gonna find that Palom and probably also look to do the hairdryer chest to get some bonus experience. And thank you, Moonblaze Wolf, for the 6 months of subscribing to Free Enterprise.
Yeah, while we have all of our runners kind of converging and doing some overlap a little bit here, I just wanted to shout out to everyone behind the scenes tonight. We have Smapety on Restream, and we have our tracker. Thank you, Smapety. We have our tracker, Atheus, who is doing the tracking for us. All the key items that you see being lit up is being done by them. And then Tarasu, of course, is my co-commentator tonight. And then Invenerable is the person who sets up these 2v2 races, previously on Wednesday nights, now on Saturday nights. And so without Invenerable, we wouldn't even be having these races. So thanks to everyone behind the scenes who puts on these great races for us.
A lot of these races are not possible without all the volunteers we have, including the commentary team, restreamers, trackers, and those that organize these races. So it's always appreciative to have you helping us. Blue Bear is now taking on the Pale Dim at the Antlion spot, and you'll also notice that Woo Bear set up and duplicated that spoon. So now Edge is going to do absurd amounts of damage by throwing spoons.
Yeah, almost everything early game, even like in the underground, is just going to like melt away to a spoon to the face from Edge at this point.
And that spoon will also make some of those moon bosses a little bit faster to get through. Like I said before, we don't have sirens, so you're not going to really be able to do the King Ryu grind tonight.
And without either of the old men, Tella or Fusoria, the D-Machine grind is really off the table as well. So it'll be interesting to see how our runners decide to get their levels. Of course, with as many checks that they are going to have to do, the trapped chest checks and moon boss checks, it may be that they just end up with enough levels naturally to take on Zeromus by the time they get everything that they need in order to face the final boss.
Certainly very possible. And we see Night Dew making use of some life potions and to get bonus experience from those hair dryers. And Rydia, I believe, jumped up 30 levels and finds a life staff. Life staff is nice because it's the most powerful staff in the game for boosting your white magic.
And it can cast the life spell for free. So yeah, that's a very nice find for either of the white mages, Porum or Rosa, that we've seen so far.
Night Dew still just with the Porum, but nothing wrong with that. Porum's still very strong and very useful as a white mage. Woo Bear now going to get their music taken care of and get the darkness crystal. So unless progress is behind Odin to the underground, we have a whole bunch of checks on the moon we need to do. There's 9 trap chests in the lunar subterrane, along with 6 other spots for key items, 2 of them being in that ribbon spot, the Vanilla D lunar spot. Plus we have the Cave Bahamut spot.
Yeah, and it does look like both Baka Shinobi and Night Dew are going up to the moon and are going to be taking on all of those moon checks together. It looks like Baka Shinobi is going to start with Cave Bahamut, and then Night Dew is going to be starting in the lunar subterrane. Now, it's pretty common for one runner to run all the way to the bottom of the lunar subterrane and start at the bottom and work their way up, and then for their partner to start at the top and work their way down. So we'll see if that's what this team decides to do. It also looks like Night Dew has turned on random encounters, so they may be hoping to get a little bit of experience on the way down.
Certainly very likely. There's a lot of good encounters you can find in the lunar subterranean that wouldn't be too difficult to take on. On top of that, when you reach the 4th floor of the lunar subterranean, you can start running into those King Ryus and then the King Ryu and other Ryu fight to really boost up your experience.
Yeah, even if you find just one of them, you won't be able to life glitch it, but even just one is going to give you a pretty good amount of XP. So will be a welcome find on the way down to the bottom save point.
Woo Bear finishes up the music, and with that item dupe glitch and the spoons, made extremely quick work of the Leviathan. And we saw D-Mist and Bahamut, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that's an interesting boss in an interesting spot. D-Mist, of course, is going to be able. Once you defeat D-Mist, you can go back down to Earth and talk to Rydia's mother in Mist Village for a potential key item. So that's like a bonus key item check right there if they're able to get through that spot. Bahamut spot, not the easiest of spots. So it does look like Baka Shinobi is wanting to get some XP here. I'm not sure if they maybe had found a siren somewhere, because this is the siren fight in this location, the double gold dragons that they're fighting right now, which is a great fight, and they'll be able to get a lot of XP if they can get through this.
Yes, they did have a single siren to pull up this fight. The one thing to note, though, about this D-Mist and the Bahamut spot, Bahamut, even though it never physically attacks you, has pretty high physical attack. So that D-Mist can absolutely tear through your party quickly if you're not ready for it.
We'll see. I don't know if Baka Shinobi bought illusions. That would be great if they did. I know we talked about that earlier, because illusions would make that D-Mist fight a whole lot easier.
It certainly will make that D-Mist much easier, because D-Mist, unless you attack it in its mist form, only uses physical attacks. So using illusions would be an ideal situation, or even better if you happen to find a moon veil.
Yeah, definitely. Even just a single moon veil to use on maybe your strongest fighter like Edge, especially Edge. If it doesn't look like they went back and got the spoon, but even Edge without the spoon and darting spoons is still going to do a lot of damage. And then once demist does turn into mist, you can buff up everybody else with illusions and reapply illusions as necessary.
Very true, and you'll really want to take on this demist because, like we said, that's instead of one key item check now, that's 2 key items in one spot, and not very many places have 2 in 1. So certainly a very interesting thing to have to do. Levels might make this doable, but choosing to exit out of Cave Bahamut.
They might just be going out to do a heal and a safety save after that grind fight. They got a lot of levels, anywhere from like 5 to 8, it looked like. So yeah, probably going out to heal and save up here.
Woo Bear gets through their hair dryer chest and finds that life staff. It's going to be interesting to see where he decides to go. One other key item check that we haven't mentioned that is open to our runners is the trap chest in the Giant of Babel, which could potentially have our progress as well.
Very true, and it actually looks like that's where Baka Shinobi is going. By talking to that guard in the big whale or the lunar whale, they will take you to the Giant of Babel, and there is a single trapped chest that contains a last arm, and that could hold some progress as well.
Certainly could. On Peasant's side, we see him having some trouble with this Valvalis fight.
Yeah, depending on what he's got equipped on his edge, that maybe has not been having a lot of luck getting through her evasion, or maybe has just had some bad luck with how she's been casting her weaks and hitting her placement with her attacks.
Certainly true. Night Dew going to check the D-Lunar spot, and that is the Kaipo fight. And thank you, Neon Gray, for 4 months of subscribing to Free Enterprise.
Thank you, everyone, for all of your support tonight. Now, that Kaipo guard spot is not only a free fight. We see them using an hourglass to stop it, and then coffins to take out the guards here. And also looks like they're doing a life glitch. This spot has the highest XP spot of all of the boss spots in the lunar subterrane here. And so by not only coming down here and doing the fight, but then life glitching it as well, they're going to be getting a lot of XP here.
Certainly true. I believe it's around 100,000 EXP with the life glitch, and being able to life glitch the officer, you're going to get a huge chunk and see a lot of these characters explode with some levels. And then with the officer down, the soldiers become confused and start beating themselves up.
So yeah, normally this spot has a lot of health. Can take quite a long time to get there, depending on the boss, what boss is here. But we see them just run right through here with that hourglass and coffins. Looks like they're not getting much of anything except a lot of XP for their trouble. I saw a Charm Claw, and maybe that was a Ninja Star, I think.
Very true, but again, that's a lot of EXP, and it's going to make getting through more of this moon much more bearable.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it was a minimal amount of time for the XP gained, so definitely worth it.
Now we see them taking on the Vanilla Plague spot, having to take on, another free fight in the Baron Guards.
Yep, another set of another boss that can be stopped with hourglasses and then coffined and life glitched. So I'm sure our runners are very happy to see all of the free fights up here on the moon.
especially without sirens. Having these free fights in spots that are going to give you a lot of experience is going to help out, especially when you're wanting to get to that Zeromus fight.
The Night Dew showing off Odin's power a little bit there. That's a summon from Rydia that we don't see used very often.
There's not a whole lot of things you can get. Finds the pass. Now, that means when Night Dew finally finds everything needed to forge that crystal, he will not have to fly back to the moon to get to Zeromus. Instead, go to Troya Pub and be able to go straight to the Zeromus fight.
Yeah, the alternative being using this darkness crystal and using the big whale to come back up to the moon and walking all the way through the lunar subterrane and then the lunar core to get to Zeromus, which is a bit of a walk. Takes several extra minutes to do that, so the pass definitely shaves off quite a bit of time if you can find it.
Ooh, the last arm chest contained an Avenger sword. With Kane, he can equip that Avenger sword and be put into a Berserk stat, and you can even glitch another weapon. Say if you find a White Spear or a Dragoon Spear, switch onto the Avenger in battle, and you'll still have the stats from that weapon and be put into a Berserk state.
Yeah, so not a key item, but definitely a welcome item for the party setup that he's got. Now, it looks like Night Dew has found the CPU. This is at the Ogopogo spot. I saw Night Dew go into Edge's dart list and hover over the spoon for several seconds, thinking about whether to use it. That is a valid thought in this spot here. Because this spot has quite a few hit points. You really only want to use physical attacks on it because the big CPU uses wall on itself. So you can't use like black magic, although we do see Rydia making nice use of Sylph to go through that wall. And yeah, there we go. We see Edge gonna dart the single spoon on it.
That's kind of a hard choice to make because there is the chance of finding another Edward, but you know, CPU in this spot, a lot of HP, and you want to get through it. So, we also saw on Woobear's side, he's repeating some of the fights that Night Dew already did, found the pass, and just finishing up that Kaipo fight for the EXP as well. Baka Shinobi now has their spoon, and they have Edward in their party, so we'll be able to dupe that spoon if they so choose. And also picking up that cane with that Avengers sword, that cane is going to be able to do some serious work for his party.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a nice bit of routing since Baka Shinobi was already on the Earth, having come back down to do the Giant of Battle. Came right back over here to do that real quick check before going back up to the moon.
And Woobear looks like he opened up one of our trap chests in the lunar subterrane, finding the double carrion warlock.
This is a nice fight. It can be hourglassed, as we just saw. These monsters can be life glitched, so we see Rosa using Berserk on Edward, who's got the spoon equipped. So, and then Edge darting extra spoons. So yeah, they'll be able to get through this pretty easily.
And we see peasants setting up for the item dupe glitch. Woobear just finding a sylph from that trap chest.
Woobear is about to follow Night Dew into that CPU fight, but I suspect Woobear is going to be able to get through it much quicker because he has an Edward with a spoon equipped, and he has Edge with multiple spoons to dart. So while Night Dew darted his single spoon for quad 9 damage, Woobear is going to be darting multiple spoons for quad 9 damage.
Certainly, he's going to have a lot easier time of this CPU fight. Night Dew does finish it up, and There's our underground with the magma key.
There it is, certainly. Magma Key being the easier of the two routes to the underground, the alternate being the hook, which would mean that they'd have to go through Eblin Cave. So I'm sure that they're glad to at least find the easier of the two routes to get underground after having to come all the way up to the Ogopogo spot to find it.
Certainly true, and it looks like Night Dew is probably going to head straight to the underground, let Wu or Baka Shinobi finish up on the moon, especially since Baka Shinobi is going to now know where that magma key is, and be able to divide up more checks between the two of them at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of checks underground. Sylph Cave in particular has, I think, 7 trapped chests. And that's besides all the just standard key item checks that are under there underground. So yeah, they still have a lot of work to do if even just one, if not both, the Adamant and the Legend Sword are to be found under there. So yeah, good idea for the first person to find their underground access to head underground and start making those checks.
Wu Bear now has their magma key, while Baka Shinobi is setting up to do this Kaipo fight, get a bunch of experience, and get his team going ahead. Looks like Wu Bear is going to choose to continue searching through the lunar subterranean, especially since Peasants isn't on the moon with him quite yet. Heading there now.
It looks like he may just be getting the last of the trapped chests that are up here in the lunar core, which is not a bad idea at all, since he was up here anyway. Since Night Dew did not do that, Baka Shinobi is going to have to come all the way up here and past the Ogopogo spot to get this check. Even if it doesn't mean anything, their team doesn't know that, so Baka Shinobi is going to have to come up here at some point and find this chest.
All right, and we see Peasants finishing setting up that item duplication glitch. Night Dew now heading into Dwarf Castle right away.
This is a good play because with the Dwarf Castle glitch on, as long as he has someone in his party who has Warp, which I assume he does at this point, then he'll be able to get 2 checks out of this. With the Dwarf Castle glitch on, once he gets through these bosses, he'll be able to get the standard key item from King Gaiat here, but then he can also cast Warp to warp back into the crystal room behind King Gaiat, but it actually takes him to the crystal room that's in the sealed cave, and he can check the sealed cave key item without having to go through the sealed cave.
Certainly, and it's not the most... At this point in time with his levels, Dwarf Castle bosses are going to be fairly easy to do. Yeah, Rydia, Lit 3, Octomam is dead.
Yeah, after having done a few of those moon bosses, he's probably not going to have too much trouble with many of the checks down here in the underground. Possibly the Ashura and Leviathan spots, depending on what the bosses are, could give him some trouble. We'll see once he gets down there.
Oh no. Peasants took a wipe, and it looks like the last time he saved was before he finished Tower of Zot. That is a gigantic setback.
Oh my goodness. And I know we talked earlier about the importance of saving, and this is the importance of saving in demonstration here. This is very sad and upsetting to see. Hopefully he and his team can recover from this.
We did see Wyvern at the second spot for Dwarf Castle. Now, I believe the Witchburn flag is on, so Wyvern, not going to be very scary.
Yeah, and that spot actually doesn't have that many hit points. That's the Golbez spot. So yeah, that was, yeah, it looks like Night Dew got through that without any trouble and is immediately casting Warp with Rydia to make that sealed cave check. Getting the tower key.
Tower key opens up one more check in the lower babble, along with, you know, the 4 trap checks and the boss up top. So a lot of potential checks there.
Just getting an assassin dagger from King Gaiet, but the tower key was definitely a useful find by having that work glitch on.
The assassin dagger is actually a nice item to find to equip on that edge because it also gives you a nice boost to your agility stat. So edge is going to be moving a lot faster and also actually able to put out some pretty solid DPS.
Yeah, that's true. And depending on what kind of fights they get into and even maybe what kind of grind they end up doing, but assassin dagger has the chance to instant KO certain monsters.
Certainly very true. Woobear finding another one of those trap chests. I believe that was the blue and the red dragon chest.
Yeah, that's one of the most dangerous trapped chests. I believe that they have the boss bit on, so they cannot be stopped with hourglasses. You cannot use coffins on them. You can't really use any kind of like status spells on them. They do a lot of damage. They're kind of scary.
No, the red dragons, especially that heat ray they have, can tear apart a party pretty quickly, but gets through it and gets a lot of experience for his party. For a crystal mail, at this point in time, you know, you could sell it, but I don't think he's really going to be looking to buy very much more at this point.
I think he even just kind of casually threw it away. Like, at this point, you're just casual crystal mail. Who needs that?
Did find a poison axe for that Sid, one of the best weapons you can equip for him in the game, behind, I think, just the rune axe.
Yeah, Sid's weapons are a little bit limited. He can use hammers, which there are very few, axes, which are also very limiting, and then bows and arrows. So short of finding something like an Artemis bow and some arrows to go with it, something like a good axe, like the poison axe or rune axe, is what you're going to be looking to put on Sid.
All right. Night Dew finds the trap chest in the Fey March, the only one of it in there. This is another key item you get. Using Odin with Rydia quickly takes out the warrior.
A Dragoon Spear for their Cane is a very nice find, especially since it looks like they had an Ogre Axe on Cane prior to that. So that's definitely an upgrade for Cane at this point.
It is a pretty big upgrade from that Ogre Axe. Will make Kane very strong. On top of that, Baka Shinobi did find that Avenger, so we'll be able to reveal that to Night Dew if he decides he wants to run to the last arm chest and get it.
Baka Shinobi continuing on with moon checks, doing a behemoth check right now.
Woobear has found the gauntlet, and I'm pretty certain this was at the Wyvern spot, so gonna be a pretty big time sink at this point in time.
Yeah, it's not really going to be too dangerous with this party that they've got, but well, it looks like Edge and probably Edward, if Edward has a spoon, is going to be able to one-shot the soldiers there, the fighters. But yeah, Gauntlet is always going to be a bit of a time sink no matter where you find it.
Certainly is. It's 6 battles rolled into one. We see he's on battle number 4 now, the Gargoyle. And not a dangerous fight by any stretch of the imagination, even in some of the most difficult spots, but it just takes so much time to get through it. And Night Dew checking those bosses in the Fey March, we know that other boss in the Leviathan spot is going to be Water Hag, and then Evil Wall and Asura.
Yeah, I don't think that his team knows that is Water Hag, so that's probably why he didn't go check that immediately, because the blue-robed figure there can either be Water Hag or the Fabul Gauntlet. And so with Woobear being in the Fabul Gauntlet currently on the moon, we know that the other one is going to be Water Hag. But I don't think his team knows that, because I don't think that Baka Shinobi has gone to the Wyvern spot to find the Fabul Gauntlet.
No, Baka Shinobi has not seen that it's Fabul Gauntlet, so that's just information we know. Now, this Evil Wall in Asura spot can be very dangerous even at these levels, simply because the Asura spot is very, very fast and has pretty solid physical attack.
Yeah, we see it hitting very hard. Now, it is only going to do physical attacks unless you use magic on it, and then it will counter with a slow stone counterattack. So if they have illusions or a moon veil or something like that, that could help them mitigate those physical attacks.
Is making use of Porum with Cure 3 and Rydia casting Self, and then hit all the rest of his physical fighters with Bacchus Wine, so shouldn't have too much trouble with this fight. We see Peasants now finally making it to the moon, and behind that Fabul Gauntlet was an Excalibur, which for us at this point is completely worthless since we can dupe the spoon.
Yeah, especially for Woobear, since he does have Edward and the spoon and has already duped it. Excalibur is a very good weapon for Cecil if we had Cecil. It's his second strongest weapon, but of course, with this being the Bordeals flag, we don't have a Cecil. Who needs a Cecil? Who needs an Excalibur? It's just a pretty sword that we can sell or maybe leave in a treasure chest.
All right, Night 2 gonna go take on this Water Hag at Leviathan. Water Hag only requires 3 hits and then will just kill himself for you. So usually a very nice find in most spots, and usually not too terribly dangerous, though in the right situation he can absolutely tear through your party.
Yeah, it looks like they were able to get through it without anyone falling and getting a sand ruby for their trouble.
Woobear still working their way back up through the lunar subterranean. So far not finding very much else in this moon.
Looks like Night 2 is going to go into the Tower of Babel now and start the checks in there. There are 4 trapped chests, the boss at the top of the Tower of Babel, and then the boss at the cannon room, which, as long as you've got the tower key, you can check that cannon room, and he does indeed have the tower key, which he found from the warp glitch in Dwarf Castle. So he'll be able to make all of these checks.
I just want to point out that Baka Shinobi's Palom now has Nuke, which is the most powerful spell in the game, realistically, for single target. On top of that, it is pretty much an instant cast spell, so going to be able to make very good use of that spell and beat some bosses fairly easily, especially since I don't think Baka Shinobi has duped the spoon.
Yeah, and that's just from having done all of these trapped chests and bosses up here on the moon. They haven't done, if they've done any grinding, it was just a little bit, like maybe 1 or 2 like gold dragon fights from like a siren or something that they picked up early on. It looks like Night Dew found a Stardust Rod from the first trapped chest here in the Tower of Babel. That's the strongest rod in the game. So that on Rydia is going to make her a very potent black mage.
The Stardust Rod gives you plus 15 to your stats for black magic, which is going to really increase her damage. On top of that, it would increase the damage on her summons. So very amazing find, especially for Rydia.
Yeah, we see her, and in the second trap chest, we find just a single rod, just a simple rod. But the first spell that she casts after equipping that Stardust Rod was a virus, doing 27, almost 2,800 damage on just on a single virus.
It's going to be amazing when he finally gets nuke on that Rydia. She is going to do a lot of damage. We see Baka Shinobi now on this Bull Gauntlet at Wyvern, does have Quake on Palom, and making fairly quick work of all these fights. Woobear's looks like Woobear's just about finished with the lunar subterrane. Not a whole lot left for him here. Peasants, meanwhile, is now at this D-lunar spot, going to take out these bosses. Doesn't look like he's going to make use of the life glitch, though. There he goes with it. Night Dew now making use of that tower key, taking on the moon boss here, which is our nope rope tonight. And in this spot, even though this spot isn't usually very dangerous, this big wave is still going to take off half of his maximum HP.
Yeah, this is a good spot to find Ogopogo, and it's actually probably good that Night Dew went here first. I know that I've found Ogopogo in this spot after beating the boss at the top of the tower and not having bothered to heal first, and kind of getting in a little bit of trouble because, you know, your party's kind of beat up. You don't bother to heal because it's just the tower spot. How bad can it be? And then Ogopogo shows up and takes out 50% of your hit points, and oops, now all of a sudden my characters have 100 hit points left.
Or your party's severely weakened, you run into Ogopogo and your party is just wiped because that's 50% of your maximum HP. Ogopogo, anytime you run into him, well, there's a good reason why we call him the Nope Rope.
Exactly. Over on Woobear's screen, they have found the King and Queen of Eblan. I believe that this is in the Pale Dim spot, which is it's kind of the out of the way lunar boss check that's near the front of the lunar subterrane. So really, the boss checks tonight have been very generous. Lots of free bosses up on the moon. The nasty bosses like Ogopogo and DKC have been in pretty easy spots. So pretty easy checks so far for our runners.
No, this seed's been fairly kind with the boss locations. On the moon, I believe pretty much all the bosses were fairly free. I mean, even CPU, which takes time, isn't very dangerous. So a very kind moon. The only one that could pose a problem is this D-Mist at Bahamut, which Baka Shinobi is now going to attempt to take on.
Did anybody go back down and turn that in?
Nobody has beaten D-Mist yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah, Baka Shinobi went in here and peeked it, but they didn't actually beat it. Okay.
But as you saw, D-Mist hit Edge for 2,100 damage, Kane for 2k damage. This fight is very, very dangerous and should not be underestimated. going to make use of that blink status to try to protect his characters as much as possible. I didn't see what Night Dude got on his side after beating the boss at the top of tower, though.
Yeah, I don't think that it was anything that we haven't seen.
All right. We see Baka Shinobi using a coffin on Kane here. That's because he has the Avenger sword equipped on Kane. And if Kane was to attack the D-Mist while it's in this mist form, it's going to counterattack with its cold breath, which would slow down this fight quite substantially.
Yeah, Kane with that Avenger, and looks like now they're reviving Kane. So Kane with the Avenger while D-Mist is in mist form is very strong. But yeah, if they keep Kane up while D-Mist is in actual mist form, it's just going to prolong that fight by a lot. Looks like Night Dude did get a rat tail from the tower spot of the Giant of Battle.
Certainly a nice item to find. It's an additional key item check, but still needs that hook to be able to turn it in. Peasants finishing up their CPU fight, gonna now have that magma key. Night Dew is going into Sylph Cave, a play that a lot of people don't like doing because it takes time and it's 7 trap chests you have to get through, and some of them, specifically the ghost check, just eats up a bunch of time.
I think Baka Shinobi got the pan from the Bahamut spot as well.
With the knowledge of what Night Dew has done in the underground, probably will go check that pan as soon as possible, because the pan's going to lead you to 3 more key items, potentially.
Right. If you go and talk to Yang without the pan, you can get 1 key item check. You can talk to Yang, and then you can go talk to Sheila up in Fabula Castle, and you can get 1 key item check. If you have the pan, you can hit Yang with the pan and then get 1 key item check from the Sylphs, and then you can go turn the pan into Sheila, and you can get the standard key item check, but then you can get a 2nd key item check by turning the pan in.
Certainly a very useful item to find. Baka is going to go check what Rydia's mom has for us today. Just an Artemis bow, not the greatest to find, simply because at this point you really don't need an Artemis bow. And if you were to put that onto, say, Rosa, it would also lower her will stat, which would weaken her white magic.
Yeah, it looks like he even noped out of that check. He had saved on the moon and is going back up. I don't think he has the magma key yet, so he's probably going to be going down and diving that magma key pretty soon here so that he can follow his partner down into the underground pretty quickly.
I thought Baka Shinobi took on CPU already. Poydrak, the Dwarf Castle glitch is on. So Night Dew, when he finished Dwarf Castle, warped and found the tower key. Luca key is totally worthless tonight since that. Blue Bear has fully cleared the moon, so Peasants is already hitting the underground. Woo Bear does have that pan. He finished up the D-Mist fight. Meanwhile, Peasants is going through the Sylph Cave, getting those checks out of the way. It's, like I said, 7 checks, and it takes quite a bit of time.
Yeah, especially these ghosts, if they get their first round off, they're going to cast Fire 2 on your entire party. And the casting of all those spells takes quite a bit of time. It's not really dangerous, especially at these levels. It's just more annoying than anything.
Certainly, the Sylph Cave is usually not very dangerous. It's just time consuming.
Now, there are 2 more checks that our runners can make if they find the hook, and that's going to be the trapped chests in Cave Eblan and in Upper Babel. There's 1 trapped chest in each area. They're going to be really out of the way at this point. Normally, they would get those on their way down to the underground if the hook was their underground access, but since they found the magma key, there's no reason for them to dive that spot at all, except to get those 2 chests. They haven't found the hook yet, so if they do find the hook, they're going to have to go out of their way to check those 2 chests if that's where their progression for finding either the adamant or the legend sword is.
And we're quickly running out of checks for our runners. The moon has been completely cleared. From what we've seen on Night Dew's side, all we have is just Sylph Cave down here. We still need the hook to check the rat tail and those 2 chests in the Eblon Cave, and we still have Odin's spot left.
Yes, there is Odin. No one on screen has checked Odin. Now, it is of note that we have, I believe, 1 other team that is running this race, and we don't know what they have done yet. So it's possible that other checks have been made that we just haven't seen yet.
Woo Bear going to be the first to turn in that pan, rushing straight for Yang and Sylph Cave. Baka now going to their CPU fight. Gonna get that magma key. Sylph's just giving us a Boris tonight, which casts Ice too, but not that help.
Yeah, at this point in the game, not gonna need that for anything. They can go turn that pan in for 2 more checks from Sheila, and as everybody knows, Sheila holds the goods, so we'll see when they go up to turn that in. Looks like they're going to dive Sylph Cave first.
Yeah, Woo Bear is going down into the Fey March, gonna check that trap chest, get the free check, and then possibly take on the bosses while Peasants Goes does a few other things in the underground.
Did I just see an adamant down on Peasant's screen?
Looks like Peasants found our first piece of go mode in the adamant. I'm guessing that Night Dew probably found it as well, because they're on the same trap chest and there's only 1 Toad Lady chest.
I don't think it was from the Toad Lady chest, though. I think it was the Toad Lady chest gave the hook. I think it's one of the chests that's next to the Toad Lady, and Peasants may have checked the chest next to the Toad Lady before doing this Toad Lady chest. So yeah, I think it's the one that Night Dew is going into right now.
But the Toad Lady chest did contain our hook, so that gives us access to the rest of the checks in the seed.
Yeah, so we're very quickly approaching go mode here.
Woo Bear does find that warrior chest, not having too much trouble with it.
Baka Shinobi has now gotten the magma key, so we'll be able to join their partner down in the underground now.
Woo Bear finds that Dragoon Spear for his cane.
Yeah, I think the color of Night Dew's background is a little bit hard to read, but I think that it was that ghost check the ghost trapped chest that was right next to the toad lady that had the adamant, because I saw that it was a key item, and they had just beaten the toad lady for the hook. So I think that was the adamant chest, was that ghost chest.
Certainly makes sense. And so we have 2/3 of our go mode now for our runners. We just need the legend sword now to be able to finish this siege.
Looks like Night Dew is, now that they have the hook, is immediately going to take that and go turn the two tails in. They'll get a adamant armor for the pink tail and potentially a key item. This might be the legend sword for turning the rat tail in.
I don't think Night Dew ever went to Eblon Castle and picked up that pink tail.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they don't have it. Yes. So we're gonna see what this rat tail is. Oh, just a ninja shirt for the memes.
So our legend sword could potentially be behind Sheila, could be at the Odin spot, or it's in Cave Eblon.
Yeah, we'll see if Night Dew decides to take that hovercraft with their hook and go check those Cave Eblon checks. Those checks are out of the way, but he would be the first, at least of our on-screen runners, to go there.
Baka Shinobi finally going into the underground. I don't think Night Dew has anything left to do underground, so Baka gonna rush straight over to Sylph Cave, pick up that adamant, probably pick up the hook as well, just in case it's needed, and does have the pink tail, so probably wants to turn that in for an adamant armor, and check that pan, so Night Dew will know if he needs to run back to the moon and take on D-Mist.
Night Dew is stopping off at Baron, so I wonder if they're going to check Odin real quick while they're here. This isn't really a long check. It takes a minute to walk down to the Odin spot, but at their levels, they can probably get through this boss pretty quickly. And this would be a lot quicker than searching all the trapped chests in Eblin and Upper Babel.
Certainly is the case. This will be one of the fastest checks that they have left. I don't think they went to Sheila 1 yet either, but probably leaving that for Baka Shinobi since he does have the pan.
Yeah, that would make sense. It looks like Baka Shinobi is deciding to get both the hook and the adamant while they're in the Sylph Cave.
Night Dew running into Asura at this Odin spot. While not the most difficult fight, she certainly can be annoying.
Yeah, Ashura's gimmick here is that she has 3 phases that she will cycle between. One casts Cure 3 on herself, one casts Cure 4 on herself, and one casts Life on herself. Life isn't going to do anything, but the other 2 will cure herself in this spot for a lot of damage. You can mitigate that by casting Wall on her. Of course, then you can't cast Black Magic on her, but Rydia does have summons that she can use instead.
Now, one thing to note, I believe Night Dew put a mute knife onto his edge and then used the Bacchus wine. Asura does count as a spellcaster, so that mute knife is doing some incredible damage, and Asura is dead.
Yeah, that was a great strategy by Night Dew, knowing that he had that item in his inventory and being able to equip it. And there is our legend sword.
So we have had access to our legend sword since the beginning of the game. Our first person on stream in go mode is Night Dew. With his current levels, maybe look for one more level for Rydia, but I would guess going to go forge that crystal and run straight to Zeromus.
And we see Night Dew's partner, Baka Shinobi, immediately exits out of Sylph Cave, doesn't even bother to go hit Yang with the pan, knowing that is not going to lead to anything now that his partner has found that legend sword. Has just picked up the adamant from that trapped chest in the Sylph Cave. Looks like Baka is going to be diving down through the Fame Arch. There might be something down here. Maybe there's an item in the item shop or one of the items in the chests that his partner told him about that he wants to get before going on to the Zeromus fight.
Very possible. He's gonna get whatever couple of items he needs for the Zeromus fight, but with Baka's levels, the Zeromus fight shouldn't be too difficult. And then Night Dew gonna have Crystal and run straight to Zeromus would be my guess. With his party set up, shouldn't have too much trouble with the Z-Bite.
Night Dew turning the Adamant and the Legend Sword into the Blacksmith Kakol here. Normally in the vanilla game, turning these two items in is a little side quest that will get you an Excalibur for Cecil. With the V1 flag turned on, this gets you the crystal. So that's why these two items are required for this flag set, because the crystal is required in order to defeat Zeromus.
Certainly is the case. We see Baka Shinobi went down there to get the Bacchus wines, also get the mute knife and cure threes to make his life easier in this Baron fight.
Yes, and looks like, yeah, they haven't even done Baron yet, so are having to use that Baron key to open up the waterway underneath Baron and then run through this waterway. We'll see if they decide to do the Kanyatsu fight. If they don't, they're going to have to run all the way back out here. Might be faster to do the fight and go through the cutscene at their levels just to be able to exit out through Baron Castle.
We also see Night Dew is having to fight everyone's favorite boss, inventory management.
That's the true boss of this game. Everybody knows that.
Peasants now going into their dwarf castle fights. And Woo Bear is climbing up the tower. The only thing they're going to get from all of this, besides the Stardust Rod, will be that rat tail. But they don't have the tower keys, so not going to be able to get the rat tail.
Yeah, their partner is about to find the rat tail if they remember that the warp glitch is on here in Dwarf Castle.
Peasants and Woo Bear have been making good use of their glitches tonight. I don't think I've seen Baka or Night Dew make use of the item duplication glitch. All right, Night Dew about to go into his Zeromus fight. So Maggie, do you want to ask the question that we always ask every time we go into this?
So chat, whose butt are we gonna kick tonight? Of course, with the Z flag on in this flag set, Zeromus's sprite is randomized, and most of these sprites are provided by Scala Kitty, who is one of the developers and organizers for the free enterprise community. She's done an amazing job of developing these Z sprites and implementing lots of different characters and enemies and bad guys from different games and different series into free enterprise here. So we're about to see who this team is about to fight.
Oh boy, it is a bus.
It's not even a character from anything.
I think Direwolf said it right. I believe this is from Desert Bus, which is, well, I'm not going to spoil it, so go experience that game for yourself. Could be Crazy Bus as well, Snape D. Like I said, if you've never experienced either one of those games, I'm not gonna spoil it. Go enjoy it yourself.
Yeah, or maybe it's just best for us to leave it here and let Z do his thing. Looks like Night Dew is setting up some standard Berserk strats with 3 Berserkers. This shouldn't be too much trouble for him.
Certainly is the case. I don't know what Scala was thinking putting this in here. It's hilarious because we are dealing with the troll bus today.
I mean, this game finds inventive ways to troll us. You know, troll buzz. You know, so why not? Why not troll us with a troll bus?
Baka Shinobi did decide to take on this Kainatsu fight. Again, at his levels, not going to be any sort of problem.
Yeah, especially with a black mage. You know, we saw earlier runners not have access to black magic here, but that Palom is just going to nuke straight through that Kanetsu.
All right. Wu Bear is grabbing their adamant and hook from Sylph Cave, and I don't think they have any other real checks left down in the underground, unless Peasants didn't turn in that tower key.
Peasants, meanwhile, is making the trap chest checks that were required by getting the hook by going into Eblin Cave, and then probably going to be continuing on into the upper Tower of Babel.
So it looks like we're going to get every single check in the game across all of our streams. What a good night for this seed.
Yeah, that's not too uncommon. It doesn't happen always, but it's not too uncommon to see that in these 2v2 races. So always great for the audience to be able to see our runners just kind of go all over the place. Our runners don't enjoy it so much, but the audience sure does.
I know I sure enjoy watching them suffer, because with how many times I've run and had to suffer, it's great just to be on the sidelines.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Baka Shinobi has their Legend Sword and their Adamant, going to go forge that crystal and get straight into their Busmus fight. And we find out what our character for the Underground is, or the Hook route is, another Rydia.
I'm going to guess that Peasants is not going to take that Rydia, unless maybe he wants her as an anchor. That's a possibility.
I could see him taking this Rydia for an anchor, especially since Peasants didn't do a lot of the moon fights, so might be a little behind on experience. Yes, does have that edge to throw spears. Nope, choosing not to take. Baka Shinobi with their crystal, and we have rocks on Night Dew's side.
Rocks falling from the sky is a sign that Zeromus is almost defeated. I believe that he has less than 10,000 hit points left at this point, so we are very near the end of Night Dew's Z fight.
I want to point out something interesting that Baka Shinobi is doing. He does want a agility anchor, so he's making use of that rescue flag and grabbing a level 1 Rydia.
Yeah, the rescue flag allows you to go into Mysidia and grab a character who you've previously dismissed. And in this case, he's taking a low-level character to use as an agility anchor. And meanwhile, we see flashing on Night Dew's screen. So GG to Night Dew for getting through that Z fight.
Night Dew coming in first place with a time of 1 hour, 37 minutes, and 17 seconds. We still have to wait for his partner to finish to see if they take first place overall.
Yeah, so far we have not seen any other finishes, so there's a good chance with his partner Baka Shinobi going into the Z fight right now that their team could take first overall here.
Certainly is the case. We see peasants immediately reset out of the Eblon cave and heading to tower, while Wu Bear is going to go check that Odin spot.
So they will very shortly be in go mode here once Wu Bear gets through this barren. Looks like Wu Bear still has to go through the barren waterway, but then once they get through that and then find the Odin check, they will be in go mode as well.
And with Wu Bear's levels, especially since he was the one that full cleared the moon, we'll have very, very little trouble with this Asura fight. Baka Shinobi, the crystal has been thrown on his side, and now he is taking on his bus. Peasants finishes up his nope rope fight, gonna be rewarded with that rat tail when he exits the tower, especially since Wu Bear has already cleared it. Not gonna need to go to the top and finish it off.
No, but we'll undoubtedly take that rat tail and that hook that they got from the Sylph Cave and go make that check right away while Wu Bear finishes up the Odin spot here.
Peasants does have that pink tail, so we'll be able to pick up an adamant armor as well, make their life a little bit easier for the Zeromus fight, and probably the Asura fight as well, since they haven't done quite as many levels as Wu Bear has. Baka got his 3 Zerkers going. Doesn't have really any magic to use for this fight, except for just having Rosa keep the party healed.
Yeah, it looks like he's opting to just keep her on standby for healing. He could potentially, you could see some hybrid strats here if he really wanted to by throwing maybe a wall or a veil up and then doing some reflective whites, but this is a very safe strat here, just letting those Zerkers do their thing and then letting Rosa take care of healing once the Big Bang comes out.
Certainly is. It's very safe. His characters all have, above 2,500 hit points. Big Bang's not very scary. Rosa with Cure 4, probably a Life Staff and Sorcerer Robe. Gonna have a very easy time in this Z fight, even if it does take a little bit since his characters aren't putting out the greatest DPS in the world. Wu Bear finishes up his Asura fight, finds the Legend Sword, and Peasants immediately just noped out of turning in the Rat Tail and Pink Tail, just straight over to the Asura fight.
Yeah, Peasants already did the first Baron check, so they're able to just run straight into Baron Castle. Don't have to go through the Baron waterway and go straight to that Ashura fight. So they'll be getting their Legend Sword very quickly here as well. Looks like Wu Bear has not defeated Kanyatsu, so they're going to have to either defeat that boss that's at Kanyatsu, the Kanyatsu himself, or it looks like they're opting to just run back out through the waterway instead.
tough choice to make, but is running out of the waterway. We saw rocks on Baka Shinobi's side, so he is almost done with this fight. Should be another hit or two. And there's the flash. Baka Shinobi finishing in second with a time of 1:42.54. And Team Night Ninjas taking first place, which is Baka Shinobi and not peasants, Night Dew. GG to both of them. Let's see if we can get them in for an interview.
Meanwhile, Woo Bear is going down now that he has both the Adamant and the Legend Sword, going down to get his crystal forged, and he does have the pass, it looks like, so he will be able to get into his Zeromus fight very quickly in just a moment here.
Certainly is the case. Peasants did not grab the pass, so going to have to make the long trek over to Zeromus when he grabs his crystal.
Peasants does get through that Ashura fight without too much trouble, and is now going to be able to follow hot on the heels of his teammates down to the blacksmith to forge their crystal as well.
Oh, maybe we don't. Huh.
All right, we are now joined by Night Dew and Baka Shinobi. GG on taking first place in this race tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
GG to both of you. That was a very nicely played race by both of you. Nice way of dividing and conquering and doing all those checks together.
Yeah, that was... It was a bit awkward. No sirens definitely made Moon a bit unpleasant early. I felt a little silly after I found that Avenger and decided I wanted to walk out and grab Kane, but it's too much power to go and pass up for that area.
Well, one nice thing about the Moon is it really didn't have any difficult bosses per se, except for D-Mist.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, as soon as we saw like Kaipo guards there, we were absolutely happy. Yeah, those were just super XP pinatas there, which yeah.
Yeah, that Kane slingshot made everything easy.
Oh, it certainly did. Of course, the Moon really didn't have much for y'all on it, except for Magma Key and a path.
And the pan at D-Mist, or at Bahamut spot from D-Mist.
Certainly was the case. Now,
we were agonizing so much on that one too.
So one thing... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I decided to go and clear Hailed them and then just leave 4 unchecked trap chests on the Moon just because I didn't like... I wanted to go and get underground quickly to check that. Because we had nothing.
And that definitely benefited your team, at least of the runners that we saw on stream. Your team was the first one underground since you, as soon as you got the magma key, you dove underground immediately, whereas the other team decided to full clear the Moon together before diving underground. So you diving underground first and starting to do those underground checks right away, definitely gave you the edge there.
Well, one thing I did want to note out of y'all, I never saw y'all use the item duplication glitch, which was turned on for tonight's stream, and you had a spoon very, very early with an edge and access to an edge.
That's a good point. I forgot. I really should have done that.
Yeah, I knew the Edward existed, but I mean, at that point, it was like, yeah, we had it. I couldn't really justify I could not justify the Tower of Zot play after nothing was there. So while it would have been a lovely thing to have, yeah, it was just something I couldn't get to. Although item duplication on an S2, generally you do have the money, especially after you've been to the moon a little bit. So I'm like, okay. We had that. The biggest thing ended up being, usually what I only end up doing is the warp out of.
Dwarf Castle?
Yes, I can talk today.
No, it was just something I noticed that was used very well by Woo Bear and Peasants, and Peasants unfortunately took a really nasty wipe that set him behind, and he started catching up very, very quickly due to being able to throw spoons with edge.
Yeah, that was definitely a big oversight on my part.
You both still ran really well, obviously coming in, first and second place, first overall. So GG on your run. And like I said, good use of dividing and conquering, and one of you going underground and one of you staying up on the moon to make as many checks as possible.
Do y'all have any final thoughts on tonight's seed or this flag set in general?
The seed really wanted to make us sad that Cecil wasn't around.
Oh yeah, what was the crystal sword and the rat tail chests, I believe? Yeah. I mean, it was
with crystal armor on the moon, 4 trap chests, X-scales, lightsabers all around.
It was just taunting you with what you couldn't have.
Yeah, the no access to adamants going up to that moon. We were very lucky that it wasn't, our gold bezes or valvaluses, the usuals waiting for us up on the moon, because that could have went bad real fast.
Well, you could have had adamant armors tonight with the pink tail.
Yeah. Night 2 said that someone was typing, so I decided not to pick it up once I was there at the end, but I was getting my crystal, and I had a good enough team to go and do this fight. I realize now that if I was other things, I should have picked up that adamant or that Artemis bow from Demas to give to Sid so he could do a bit more extra damage, and I should have swapped my Zeus gauntlet to Kane because he was going to do more damage than Edge.
I mean, with your levels, adamant armor really wasn't needed, and you still had no trouble with the Zeromus fight. Neither of y'all really did, so both of y'all played incredibly well, and thank you both for letting us watch you be restreamed.
Thank you for restreaming and commentating.
Yes, thank you very much.
And GG again on your run.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And while we were talking with Baka Shinobi and Nightdew, we did have a third place finish. One of our off-stream runners, Golden Hades, came in with a time of 1 hour, 45 minutes and 16 seconds. And now we see Woo Bear is finishing up in fourth place with a time of 1 hour, 49 minutes and 57 seconds. So GG to both of them.
GG and well played to both of them. We see Woo Bear's partner Peasants making his way into their crazy bus fight.
Peasants has more spellcasters on his team, so I'm wondering if he's going to be doing more reflex strats or hybrid strats than we've seen with the rest of the runners here.
I would expect to probably see a little bit more. Well, I don't know. Based on his party level, I doubt we'll see very much of the reflex strats, and you're going to see a lot of just edge throwing spoons. And we have a fifth place finisher, Chaos Hades, coming in with a time of 1 hour, 52 minutes and 22 seconds. Team Hades looks like they're taking second place overall.
GG to them. Peasants is starting up this fight, starting to dart with edge, although we see the first dart is missing here. If you attempt to attack or do anything to Zeromus too quickly after the sprite transforms, the first attack can miss. So you do have to kind of give it a beat and wait just a tick before attacking or doing anything to him for the first whatever thing, spell, dart, anything to land.
Oh, certainly is the case. Right after that crystal is thrown, it takes a moment for Zeromus to become vulnerable. He doesn't have any silk webs, so using Porum to cast slow and get that first nerfed Big Bang and slow down Zeromus a little bit. Rydia being hit with the nuke and is just instantly killed.
Now we're seeing these darted spoons coming out and a berserked Edward. Rosa and Porum are going to stay on healing duty, so yeah, he's probably just going to stay with the spoon strats here between Edge and Edward. It shouldn't take him too long at all between the two of them to take this Zeromus down.
Ooh, that's a lot of damage onto his edge with that nuke. And I think if he was trying to get the nerf for the second Big Bang, he cast that slow spell way too early and it's not going to be nerfed. And just Edge is alive. That's a fairly rough spot to be in.
It looks like Peasants has decided to power through and see if he can just continue to dart with Edge and take Zeromus down before Edge falls here.
With throwing his spoon doing max damage, it could be possible. No, deciding to reset. He doesn't have life potions. One other thing I want to point out is he has Edge in that middle slot. So with Edge's agility stat, that Zeromus is going to be very, very fast and hard to deal with.
Looks like he's decided to turn random encounters on. Possibly is going to try to get a few more levels here before going back into that Z fight.
Certainly makes sense. I think he probably has a couple of bosses he could take on as well to be able to get some extra levels if needed.
Here's the gold and silver dragon fight. This is a great grind fight. Even without the life glitch, he's going to get something like a base of like 70,000 XP. But with 10 key items, he's going to be getting double that. So he's going to get a lot of XP for just a single encounter here.
Got 110,000 EXP. That's a nice chunk to help out his party.
So this Tricker fight is an interesting fight. Looks like he's opting to run from it. All the Tricker is going to do is cast Peep on itself over and over and over again. It's going to say that it's weak to lightning spells, but if you use lightning spells on it, it's going to cast Lit 3 on you until you die, because its magic power is very, very strong. So it's also just a very annoying fight because it keeps casting Peep on itself, and that Peep cast actually takes quite a bit of time. So not uncommon when you're just doing random encounters to just run from that fight, because it's just kind of an annoying fight.
It is a very annoying fight, and like you said, when it starts casting Lightning 3 on your party, it is very, very fast and can wipe out your party incredibly quickly. Don't ever cast Lightning on that.
It honestly doesn't give that much experience anyway. As we saw, there's lots of encounters in here that give pretty good XP, and the Tricker is not really one of them.
No, it certainly isn't. So many other options you can make to grind for EXP as needed.
Looks like Peasants has decided they have enough XP now, has gone back to save one more time, did just a little bit of last minute menuing, and is now going back through the core toward Zeromus.
Probably looking more so just to get some extra HP on that Rosa, so she has a better chance of surviving the Big Bang.
Yeah, absolutely. Rosa with 2,100 hit points certainly can survive a Big Bang. It's that 2,100 hit points is sort of right on the borderline of being out of the danger zone. 2,200 or 2,300 hit points is much safer. And it looks like he did feed her a few apples as well, which increase her hit point total. So if he can keep Edge and Rosa alive, he shouldn't have any trouble getting through this fight this time.
Certainly shouldn't. Rosa with Cure 4, Edge darting spoons, and Rosa now having, I think it was either 25 or 2,600 HP, should be able to survive the Big Bangs. You'll still want to get some slows on this Zeromus, just because he is going to be fairly quick with his party setup, especially his party order.
Looks like he is opting to parry with his first couple of characters who come up, which isn't a bad idea, so that he can probably get like either a slow or a berserk or something off on Zeromus right after, like a slow on a Zeromus or a berserk on his fighters immediately after Zeromus transforms.
Certainly is the case. Edward does have a spoon, so we'll be able to put out some pretty good DPS while he is alive. But Edward doesn't have very much in the way of HP. So, except for the first nerf Big Bang, Edward's probably going to die to the Big Bang attacks.
Yeah, he'll be able to put out quite a bit of damage in the first little bit here. But yeah, we saw him fall after the second Big Bang in his last attempt, and that's probably what's going to happen here, because with only 1,400 hit points, unless he has an adamant armor, which I don't think he does, that Edward's probably going to fall.
Edge eating that nuke. Not the target you really want to see hit by that.
Rosa is queuing up a Cure 4 for Edge, but did not get it off in time for this Big Bang. Oh, and Edge not surviving even the nerfed Big Bang. So Edge did go down. We'll see if he can recover from this.
don't think he'll have too much trouble. He still has both his white mages up, and even though he doesn't have life potions, Life 1 is a pretty quick spell to cast.
Yeah, that was not bad at all. Pour him with the Life 1, and then Rosa immediately following up with the Cure 4.
Edge back up on his feet and getting those darts going, throwing, max damage spoons. Very nicely done. Second big bang is probably going to, yep. Now he just has to keep the Rosa and the Edge alive. The nice thing here is because Cure 4 is now only going to be healing the Rosa and the Edge, it's going to actually heal for more. And looks like he's going to start equipping a Silent Staff for his Rosa.
And that's going to help with his healing output quite a bit. Staves increase the white mage's magic stat so that their healing output will be considerably increased. And we see Rosa with that Cure 4 now with a staff equipped and only curing 2 party members is curing for like between 2,500 and 3,000 hit points per person.
He actually didn't get the staff equipped because of the way his menu was set up. He wasn't able to get that short bow off of his left hand, so unable to equip the Silent Staff. That being said, Cure 4 is still healing for enough to keep his party alive, so shouldn't have too much trouble from here on out on this Zeromus fight.
It does look like he might run out of spoons here, but thankfully Edge is still a pretty strong fighter if he has to resort to just whacking away at Zeromus with ninja swords or whatever he has equipped.
I think that's probably still a glitched number on those spoons, so should have plenty of spoons for this. Yeah, you see how it was 0-1?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about the number glitching that happens when you do that item dupe.
Yeah, when you do the item dupe, I believe it makes 255 copies of the item you're duping. So because the game can only handle numbers up to 99, it just wraps around and has some interesting characters that'll pop up with the numbers. We have rocks though on Peasant's side.
One more spoon is probably going to do it here.
Yep, looks like you're gonna need at least just one more. There's the spoon, there's the flash, but Peasants is coming in 6th place with a time of 2 hours, 6 minutes, and 18 seconds, giving Team Bacchus Rhymes 3rd place overall. GG to both of them.
GG to Peasants and GG to Peasants and Woo Bear's team overall. We'll see if we can get them in for a quick interview here before we wrap up. And while we're waiting for Woo Bear and Peasants to join us, just one more time, we would like to thank everyone for making these races happen. Smapty on Restream and Atheus on tracking. my fellow commentator Tarasu and Invenerable for setting up these 2v2 races, and all of our restreamed runners. And I do believe that we were just joined by Woobear and Peasants. So Woobear and Peasants, GG on your run tonight.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
So, having item duplication and spoon makes things a lot more quick.
Yeah, for everybody else. For me, it was much slower, apparently.
Well, you took that really unfortunate wipe and had to go back and redo Valvalis. So
That was really that was really sad when we saw that. I was like, oh no.
I think this is probably the worst I've ever played this game. Like, I'm not even joking. That was so bad. I want to apologize to everybody. Good lord.
Those things happen to everyone, and even the best of runners find themselves, in situations like that where you're like, what happened? What did I just do? So I think you recovered really well from it, all things considered. You got right back in there. You could have really easily just been like, "No, I'm done."
He was close. He was close.
I considered it.
I was like, it's fine. Just keep going. Just don't worry about it.
Good. It's glad that you had a partner there to like encourage you. So that's good.
I will say this: even though you had that major setback, you actually made up quite a bit of time. And I think the only thing that just kind of hurt you was not getting on the moon and getting some of those extra levels that everyone else was forced to get.
I was very overambitious with the first Z attempt. I just wanted it to be over. But even
that's
the
partially
second
my
one,
fault too, because I told him, like, once he finally did get to the moon, I'm like, just get magma key and go underground. It's fine. You'll get levels, hopefully on the self cave or something.
Yeah.
But
After the wipe to Valvalis, I had bought life, so then I didn't go back and buy them. So then I had no lives the entire time, so I wasn't using the life glitch very much. All in all, terrible seed.
No, like I said, I think you recovered. I thought you recovered great, all things considered. Everybody's gonna have nights like this. You learn from it and you keep rolling, and you don't let seeds like this get you down. I thought you played really great for what this seed threw at you. So
part of the issue too was my fault, because I was like, after clearing the moon and all that, I was like, there's no dot done. It's like, wow, it must be like, and actually it was after we were past the moon, we were underground and doing self cave and stuff. It's like, there's no
I
dot
think
duns. It must be.
I had the. Oh, sorry.
That's fine. It was like,
I
it
had
must
the
be
adamant.
somewhere trolly. So I'm like, okay, I'll go check giant, trap chest. And meanwhile, I was just sitting at Odin, like a dummy.
yeah,
Yep.
nobody checked Odin. Like, it was sitting there the entire game. We said because nobody checked it until Moon was full cleared, Underground was full cleared, and then finally somebody went back and checked Odin after all of that. But like, Moon and Underground were full cleared before anybody checked that spot.
Before I reset all that time, I was gonna do Odin before I even went up to the moon. So like, and then after I lost all that time, I just wanted to get to the moon as soon as possible, and I just completely forgot about it. So it could have been great, but it ended up being terrible.
Ended up being the opposite of great.
The opposite of great. Ah, well.
I mean, things like that happen to even the best of runners. So you still played incredibly well. I wouldn't be ashamed of that.
Well, I mean, probably okay-ish, I suppose.
Well, considering after that you still finished the seed,
No,
I would
just
say
like
you
bugging
played
him.
very.
I just like teasing him.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I've had seeds like, just like when I've been playing on my own, where I've had seeds like that where I'm like, I just lost 15 minutes of time or whatever it was. Nah, I'm done. I'm done with this game right now. So it's great that you decided to keep going and had a partner to encourage you. So that's great for both of you.
Well, I still thought there was a chance, but there goes my
To be
streak.
fair, I was doing nothing, but Rube cleared the moon real fast. Like he the entire reason that we probably got back in it is because he cleared it so quickly.
Well, it's a lot of spoons.
A lot of spoons.
A lot of spoons.
That item duplication glitch certainly made the moon easier. But on top of that, other than D-Mist, most of the bosses were essentially free on the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I told him to go down and do the Illuminers even just for the experience, because it was an empty spot, but it was just 100k experience, right? But he's like, no, I'm gonna do random encounters. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And then died to them.
I got killed by a carry, and I was like, okay, I hate my life. I got killed by a carry twice, actually.
And then I told him to get past at Plague Spot, and he's like, all right, and he didn't, which was another play.
It was a comedy of errors on my half. I think I was just too tilted. I was just seeing red, to be honest. Ah well. It was still fun. I so rarely get to play with item duplication, so it's still fun.
And with a spoon on top of all that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's as soon as we saw Edge and duplication was like, because I didn't look at the flags until like right when the race started, and I'm like, oh, duplication's on, like do it immediately, and yeah, I got that done real quick, and then after seeing Edge, he was like, all right, let's find Edward and Spoon and Hope.
Well, any final thoughts on this seed or the flag set in general?
I don't.
I would like to practice this flag set more, like using the item dupe, because I would actually forgot how to do like the item duping halfway through the seed.
I don't want to play seeds without Cecil anymore. I think I found like every single sword in the game. And
I miss
it made me
Cecil as
sad.
well. Bring him back.
Also, this is just a conspiracy theory, but I think Peasants was mad that I teamed up with Bacchus Shinobi the other week and I've won. So I think he tanked on purpose.
I was tanking.
Oh, I see how it is. It's like
I died again.
Make it seem like I did it on purpose.
All right. Well, GG to both of y'all, and thank you for letting us watch your streams tonight.
No problem.
Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.
As soon as you asked, I was like, uh-oh, I'm really tired. And Peasants
Exactly.
And I was like, this is going to be horrible. I was like, yeah, let's go for it.
Well, thank you for letting us watch your restream, and GG to both of you. It's always a pleasure to have members of our community step up and just be part of our races and be part of our community like this. So thank you and GGs.
Anytime.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, good night.
Good night.
All right, that was Woo Bear and Peasants. So with that, we're pretty much done for this evening. We'll have another race this Monday at 8 Eastern on this same channel. It looks like tonight we are going to raid Kate Sith 2, who is running this seed solo. So definitely stick around and check that out. And I would like to thank, of course, our restream team tonight, Smake D doing the restream, Atheist, I'm probably butchering that, doing our tracking. And of course, thank you for joining me this evening on commentary, Maggie the Cat.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tarasu. It's been a pleasure, and thank everyone in chat for joining us tonight. I hope you all had a great evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are located, and see you again next week for our next 2v2 race.